Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to analyze intelligence and creativity chapter in educational psychology. And disclaimer: this is made available for informational and educational purpose only. Introduction. In this unit, the meaning and definition of intelligence, type of intelligence, theories of intelligence, the difficulty in measuring the intelligence, historical development of intelligent test, concept of mental age, concept of intelligent quotient, intelligent test and their types, the uses of intelligent test, limitations of intelligent test, culture fair test, meaning of creativity, characteristic of creativity, the stages in the creative process, and what is the difference between the intelligence and creativity, identification of the creative children, and fostering the creativity among the children are going to be explained in detail. What is the meaning of intelligence? Psychologists have suggested various points of view regarding the nature of intelligence. All the definitions can be classified under the following three groups only. One is ability for adjustment or adaptation, ability to learn, ability to carry on the abstract thinking. Let's see in detail about ability for adjustment or adaptation. According to this point of view, intelligence is the general mental adaptability of new problems and new situations of life. Thus, the more intelligent person is the one who can more easily and more extensively vary his behavior as changing conditions demand. So, what is the ability to learn? This viewpoint emphasizes the ability to learn. That is, one's intelligence is a matter of the extent to which he is educable. The more intelligent a person, the more readily and extensively he is able to learn and enlarge his field of activities and experiences. What is the ability to carry on the abstract thinking? Here, the emphasis is laid on the effective use of the concepts and symbols in dealing with situations, especially the presenting a problem to be solved through the use of verbal and numerical symbols. So, the first one, ability for adjustment or adaptation, is talking about the general mental ability for the new person and the new situation of life, and how the more intelligent person will behave, like he is changing his behavior based on the changing condition demands, and the ability of to learn focus mainly on one's intelligence is a matter of the extent to which he is educable, yeah, how much he can be educable. That's what the ability to learn. Like the more intelligent person, more readily and extensively he is able to learn and enlarge his field of activities. And the ability to carry on the abstract thinking is mainly focused on the effective use of concepts and the symbols in dealing with the situations. So, the three categories of definition of intelligence stated above are not exclusive of each other, but are inclusive and interdependent on each other. No doubt, on the surface of these categories appear quite different, but on critical examination, it could be found that learning ability is a basic requisite condition for other two aspects of intelligence. So, what they are saying, all these three categories, the ability for adjustment and the ability to learn and the ability to carry, they are not exclusive. They are inclusive and interdependent on each other. So what they are saying on the surface, it seems different, but when you go depth and if you critically examine, it could be found that learning ability is the basic requisite conditions. So for the other two aspects of the intelligence, So this is a basic. The ability, the learning ability is a basic for the other two. That's what they are concluding. Let's move on to the definition of intelligence. Student, Studdard, speaks of intelligence as the ability to start and sustain, and in spite of emotional interferences, activities that are difficult, novel, and useful in an economical manner. So, a very comprehensive and widely accepted definition of intelligence has been given by Wechsler, Wechsler, which states intelligence is the aggregate or global capacity of an individual to act purposefully and to think rationally and to deal effectively with the environment. The definition encompasses all the three major viewpoints with regard to intelligence. So, the first definition of Studart is talking about the ability to start and sustain, and in spite of the emotional interferences. Whereas the second definition by Wessler is focusing mainly on intelligence is the aggregate, or he is saying it's a global capacity of an individual, so he should act purposefully, and he has to think rationally and to deal effectively with the environment. So these definitions encompasses all the three major viewpoints with regard to intelligence as the adjustment or adaptation ability and ability to learn and the ability to carry on the abstract thinking. So Alfred Binet considered intelligence as involving such abilities as understanding, originality, persistence, and self-criticism. So the first definition is by Studard. It's talking about ability. The second definition of Wessler is talking about it's a he's talking about global capacity of an individual, whereas the third definition, Alfred Binet, considered the intelligence as ability as understanding the originality, persistence, and self criticism. Let's move on to the characteristics of an intelligent person. So, how an intelligent person will look like? Well, an intelligent person is the one who can learn fast and with ease. And he display the good adjustments in behavior, and he is having the capacity to solve the problems he encounter, and he is capable of successfully completing even difficult and the complex task with high efficiency, and that too economically. That is very important. The adjusts his behavior according to the demands of the goals which he seeks to attain. Generally acts in pursuit of the welfare of the society and does not get easily carried away by emotions, but the focus is attention and efforts on the task in hand by mobilizing all his energy and resources at his command. The intelligent person, is capable of handling any trying situations and win over it. And he has the ability to analyze any problems thoroughly. He knows the knack of getting along with others and bring them around his point of view. A British psychologist point out the following two essential behavior aspects exhibited by the intelligent persons. One is the perceive the appropriate relations that exist among the objects or ideas, and he has to apply the relations so perceived to the new situation in life. So let's summarize the characteristics of the intelligent person. He has to learn fast and he is good adjustment. He should have the capacity to solve problems, and he has the capacity to successfully completing the even difficult and complex task based upon the demands of the goals. He has to adjust his behavior. He should generally act in pursuit, and he should not get easily carried away by emotions. He should be capable of handling any trying situations, and he has the ability to analyze any problems thoroughly, and he should know the knack of getting along with others. So, British psychologist, he has two essential behavioral aspects. One is pursue the appropriate relation, and second one is apply the relation so pursued. Let's move on to the type of intelligence. Some psychologists, notably Thorndike, Thorndike, believe that there are several kinds of intelligence should be distinguished from each other. According to him, intelligence is of three kinds. One is social, mechanical, and abstract. What is social intelligence? It refers to the knack of getting along with people. Socially, the intelligent person make friends easily and understand the human relations. Whereas the mechanical intelligence is the ability to deal effectively with machines or mechanical contraventions. What is abstract intelligence? It is the ability to deal with symbols, both verbal and numerical, diagrams, formulas, etc. Let's summarize the type of intelligence. Social intelligence is nothing but knack of getting along with the people. Mechanical intelligence is nothing but deal effectively with the machines. And abstract intelligence is the ability to deal with symbols. Professor Howard Gardner of Harvard University of USA, in his book named Frames of Mind, the theory of multiple intelligence, has posted a provisional list of intelligence which include linguistic and logical skills, which is being used for the IQ test measures, the musical skills and kinesthetic skills. Usually, it is displayed or exhibited by the surgeons and the dancers. The spatial skills, that is by the sculptures. The interpersonal skills, by the politicians and the salesmen. And the intrapersonal skills, it's exhibited by planners and strategists. Let's summarize. Professor Howard Gardner of Harvard University, he in his book The Frames of Mind, the theory the theory of multiple intelligence, he has listed out the professional list of intelligence. One is the first one, he is talking about linguistic and logical skills. It is used to measure the IQ. Musical skills and kinetic skills, surgeons and the dancers. Spatial skills by the sculptures. Interpersonal skills by politicians and salesmen. And the intrapersonal skills, it's exhibited by planners and strategists. So let's move on to the theory of intelligence. There are many views regarding what constitutes intelligence. The different viewpoints expressed by the psychologists regarding the structure and the functioning of intelligence go by the name. Theories of intelligence, important among them, are presented below. The first one is the unitary theory or the monarchic theory. Here, this theory holds that intelligence consists of all pervasive capacity. Burnett, Thurman, and some other classical psychologists supported his view. According to his theory, if one has a fund of intelligence, he can utilize it to any areas of his life. The intelligence of the person gets stamped in all what he thinks and acts. But in our practical life, we see the contrary to this. A genial mathematical professor may be absent minded or socially ill adjusted. So, the further analysis of the scores in an intelligent test battery shows that different tests in the battery are not highly correlated. Hence, it is suggested that the unifactor approach is too simple and a complex model is needed to explain the intelligence satisfactorily. Let's summarize the unitary theory of monarchic theory. So, this theory is supported by Binet and Thurman. So, what this theory says, if one has a fund of intelligence, so he can utilize it to any areas of his life. So he is saying the intelligence of a person gets stamped in all and what he thinks and acts. So he is comparing the theory with the practical situations. Whereas a mathematical genius, he look like a absent-minded or he is socially ill-adjusted. So he is want to analyze the further analysis of the scores. So in an intelligent test battery shows that the different tests on the battery are not highly correlated. They are not linked. They are not correlated. The different tests in the battery. So he is suggesting that the unifactor approach is too simple, and he demands for the complex model to explain the intelligence satisfactorily. Let's discuss about Spearman's two-factor theory. Spearman proposed his two-factor theory of intelligence in 1904. The first factor was a general capacity, which was basically a reasoning factor. So, according to this theory, every different mental ability involves general factor, that is G, which it shares with all other mental activities, and a specific factor, which it shares with none. So the G factor is largely innate and account for success in all the activities. It is constant in the sense that for any individual it remains the same of all the correlated activities. So it differs from individual to individual, but success in any specialized field very much depends on the concerned specific factors, which is essentially learnt. Thus, that no person is absolutely uniform in his mental performance. So the person who are good in natural science are poor in the social science. Some who excel in the mathematics are poor in the language. Thus, the performance in any situation is predicted by the account of the share of G and S in different intellectual activities. So they have represented it by drawing with a circle inside and four eclipse touching the circle. It's like cutting halfway through, and they represented as S1, S2, S3, and S4. S1, S2 in the east and west, and north and south is S3 and S4, whereas the G is common in all the activities. So, what he has proposed, the Spearman in 1904. So, he first considered the factor was a general capacity, which was a basically a reasoning factor. So he has two factors. One is general factor, another one is specific factor. So the general factor he is considered as which it shares with all other mental activities, but the specific factor which it shares with none. That's what he says. So the general factor largely innate and accounts for the success in all the activities. So he is feeling that it's a constant in the sense that for any individual, it remains the same for all the correlated activities. So he is accepting that it differs from individual to individual. But the success in any specialized field very much depends on the concerned specific factors only, which is essentially learned. So there's no person is absolutely uniform in his mental performance. So the persons who are good in natural science are poor in the social science. Some who excel in mathematics are poor in the language. So the performance in any situation is predicted by the amount of share of G and S in different intellectual activities. Thorndike's multi-factor theory. Thorndike was an associationist and he opposed the theory of general intelligence. He opposed the unifactor theory. He proposed that there are specific stimuli and specific response. So, whereas they classified as general and specific, he is saying specific stimuli and specific response. Intelligence to him is nothing more than a convenient name for almost infinite number of actual or the potential specific connections between these stimuli and response. So the what is the difference in intelligence among the people are due to the number of connections in the neurological system. So according to this theory, intelligence is said to be constituted of a multitude of separate factors or the elements, each being a minute element or the ability. And hence this theory is known as atomistic theory of intelligence. A mental act, according to this theory, involves a number of these minute elements operating together. If any two tasks are correlated, the degree of correlation is due to the common elements involved in the two tasks. Let's summarize. He is against the unifactor theory. He has proposed specific stimuli and the specific response. So, what he understands of intelligence is nothing more than a convenient name for almost infinite number of actual or potential specific connections between these stimuli and responses. So he is considering why there is a difference in the intelligence between the people is based on the neurological systems, the number of connections in the neurological systems. So the main core thing is, according to this theory, intelligence is said to be constituted of the multitude of separate factors or the elements. So each being a minute element or ability. The mental act, according to this theory, involves a number of these minute elements. That's his conclusion, which are operating together. So, if any two tasks are correlated, then the degree of correlation is due to the common elements involved in these two tasks. So Thorndike distinguishes four attributes of intelligence. One is the level, range, area, and speed. What is that? Level, range, area, and the speed. What is level? This refers to the difficulty of the task that can be solved. If you think of all the test items arranged in the sequential order of increasing difficulty, then the height that we can ascend on this ladder of difficulty determine our level or the attitude of intelligence. What is the range? This refers to the number of tasks at any given degree of difficulty that we can solve. Theoretically, an individual possessing a given level of intelligence should be able to solve the whole range of tasks at that level. So, what is the range? The range is determined not only by level but also by the breadth of experience and by the opportunity to learn in the intelligent test. Range is represented by items of equal difficulty. So, what is the area? It refers to the total number of situations at each level to which the individual is able to respond. So, the area is a summation of all the ranges at each level of intelligence processed by an individual. The speed. This is the rapidity in which an individual can respond to the items. The speed and the attitude are positively related. The speed is much closely bound up with the attitude than or the other attributes. So we should not therefore emphasize the speed too much in our intelligent test. So every intelligent test consists three, four attributes. When we test a person, we give him certain number of tasks or area. So these tasks vary in difficulty, that is the levels, and there are certain number of items at each level of difficulties, that is the range, and they are responded in a given time, that is the speed. The emphasis on these four attributes varies from test to test. Let's summarize. Thorndike distinguishes four attributes: level, range, area, and speed. In level, it's discuss about the difficult that refers to the difficulty of the task that can be solved. So if you keep all the items in the sequential order, he is saying that the height that we can ascend on this ladder of difficulty, it will determine our level or attitude of intelligence. What is the range? He refers to the number of tasks at a given degree of difficulty that we can solve. That is the range. So if an intelligent person, he should be able to solve all the range of tasks. What is the area? It refers to the total number of the situations at each level to which which the individual is able to respond. So he is just summing up all the areas of all the range at each level of intelligence proposed by an individual. So area is a summation of all the ranges at each level of intelligence processed by an individual. The speed we all know, it's the rapidity with which an individual can respond to the items. So both the speed and the attitudes are positively related. So the speed is much closely bound up with the altitudes than other contributes. So he is concluding that every intelligent test has these four attributes. When we test a person, we give him a certain number of tasks or areas. So these tasks, it's vary in difficulty. There is levels. There are certain number of items at each level of difficulty that is called range, and they are responded in a given time, that is speed. So he is emphasizing on these four attributes. It varies from a test to a test. Let's move on to the Thornson's group factor theory. Thurstone, Thurstone group factor theory. A group factor theory has been advocated by Thurstone and his associates. So it's not a single person; there are a group of people who has been advocated. So according to this, to the group factor theory, intelligent activity is not an expression of innumerable, highly specific factors, as Thorndike has claimed, nor is it the expression primarily of a general factor, as Spearman has held. So the Thurstone has he is challenging both Thorndike and Spearman. He is saying, according to the group factor theory, the intelligent activity is not an expression of innumerable, highly specific factors, as proposed by Thorndike, and he is saying it is not. Is it the expression primarily of general factors, as the Spearman has held? So instead, the analysis and interpretation of Thorndike and others led them to a conclusion that certain mental operations have in common a primary factor, which gives them a psychological and functional unity, so and which differentiate them from other mental operations. So what is those mental operations? These mental operations then constitute a group. The second group of mental operation has its own unifying primary factor, and a third group has a third, and so on. So each of these primary factor is said to be relatively independent of others. So from his further analysis, Thornstones and his colleagues concluded that there are seven primary mental abilities, so which emerge clear enough for the identification and used in test design. So first, he is challenging Thorndike based on intelligent activity is not an expression, and he is challenging Spearman by the expression primarily of general factors. He's against that. So he's instead of that, he's analyzing the interpretation of both of Thornton and others. So he led to the conclusion that certain mental operations have in common a primary factor. So that primary factor which gives them a psychological and functional unit, that too, that is differentiate from them from other mental operations. A second group of mental operations has its own unifying primary factor. A third group has a third, and so on. He is just giving a list. So he is concluding that the main core is each of these primary factor is said to be it's relatively independent of others. So he is saying it's all independent. So he is further analyzing and he is arriving at primary mental abilities. That is the seven number of primary mental abilities. First, he is considering the space visualization, then he is moving to the perpetual speed and the numerical ability, the verbal comprehension, the word fluency, root memory, and reasoning. The space visualization, the ability to visualize the geometric pattern in the space, the perpetual speed, quick and accurate noting of details, the numerical ability, quickness and accuracy in simple arithmetic operations, the verbal comprehension, the knowledge of meaning and relationship of the words, the word fluency, the ability to think and use many isolated words at a rapid rate, a rote memory, the immediate recall of materials learned, reasoning, ability to see the relationship in situation described in symbols. Let's see those seven PMA, the primary mental abilities. Space visualization. One has to ability to visualize the geometric pattern in the space, the speed, perpetual speed, how quick and accurate. A numerical ability, a quickness and accuracy in simple arithmetic operations, a verbal comprehension, the knowledge of the meaning and relationship of the word fluency, ability to think and use many isolated words at a rapid rate, rote memory, immediate recall of materials learned, the reasoning, ability to see relationship in situation described in symbols. Contributions of Thurstone theory of intelligence. The important contribution of Thurstone's theory of intelligence are more clearly specified and defined test categories and the type of test items to be included and emerged. And second one is the several test batteries have been constructed on the basis of the group factor theory. So, on the basis of findings of his theory, Hachi Garrett has postulated a development theory of intelligence in which he argues that with increasing age, abilities differentiate out of the general abstract intelligence into relatively independent factors. The Gulford structure of intelligence. The structure of intelligent model is the result of the factor analysis conducted by Gulford and his associate in the psychological laboratory at the University of South California in 1966. Gulford suggests that mind is composed of almost three major dimensions. One is the process of operations, material or the content, and the product. So, what is the contributions of this theory, Thorndike theory of intelligence? One is he is more clearly specified and he defined the test categories and the type of test items to be included and emerged. The several test batteries have been constructed on the basis of group factor theory. So, on the basis of the finding of his theory, H. Garrett has postulated a development theory of intelligence. In that, he argues that with increasing age, abilities differentiate out of the general abstract intelligence into relatively independent factors. So, Galford's structure of intelligence, a model, is a result of the factor analysis conducted by Gulford. He conducted in 1966, that too in his laboratory of University of South California. So he suggests that the mind is composed of at least three major dimensions and a process of operations, material or the content and the product. So Gulford suggests that mind is composed of almost three major dimensions, that is the process of operations, material or the content and the product. What is the six operations? Coordination, memory recording, memory retention, divergent thinking, convergent thinking, and evolution. So first he's starting with the coordination and he's talking about memory recording and how the memory is being retained, that is retention, and the divergent and convergent thinking, and finally the evaluation. Now he talk about the five contents. What is that five content? Visual content, auditory content, symbol content, semantic content, and behavioral content. We all know the five contents: the visual, auditory, symbolic, semantic, and the behavioral content. Finally, he talked about the six products, that is, the unit, classes, and relations, systems, transformations, and implications. So, what are the units and what are the classes in it, and what is the relations between that, and what are the systems, how it is being transformed, and how it makes the implications. So, what is the explanation of the different components of the intelligence, the six operations? We all know coordination, memory recording, memory retention, convergent and divergent thinking and evolution. What is coordination? This involves immediate discovery, rediscovery, awareness, comprehension, and understanding. The memory recording, it is the most important fundamental operations in the learning process. It means retention of what is recognized for a shorter duration, the short-term memory. And memory retention is about long-term memory. It refers to the retention of what is recognized for the long period of time. Convergent divergent thinking. Convergent thinking is nothing but generation of information from the given data where the emphasis is on the conventionally accepted best outcomes. Whereas the divergent thinking, it refers to the thinking in different directions, searching and seeking some variety and novelty. The divergent thinking is closely associated with creativity. Evaluation, in this we reach conclusions and decisions as the goodness and correctness, adequacy and desirability of informations. So the explanation of the different components of the intelligence, that is six operations: coordination, memory recording, memory retention, convergent, divergent thinking, and evaluation. Coordination is nothing but immediate discovery. Memory recording is a short-term memory. Memory retention is about long-term memory. Convergent thinking is generation of informations from the given data. Divergent thinking is nothing but thinking in different directions. Evaluation is we reach a conclusion and decisions. Let's move on to the five contents: the visual content, auditory, symbolic content, semantic content, behavioral content. Visual content, it is a concrete material which has been perceived through ideas. Auditory content is matter or the information perceived through ears. Symbolic content is composed of letters, digits, or other conventional signs, usually organized in general pattern. Semantic content is nothing but it is in the form of the clear verbal meanings or the ideas for which no examples are necessary. That is self-explanatory. Behavioral content is a social intelligence which enable one to understand the human communication. What is six product? Unit, classes, relations, systems, transformation, and applying and implications. What are the six products? Unit, classes, relations, systems, transformation, and implications. What is unit? This is similar to Gestalt psychology of figure and ground, relatively a segregated item. Classes, the conceptions underlying the sets of information grouped by virtue of their common properties. Relations, the connection between the items or the information based on variables. Relational connections are more meaningful and definable. Systems, this is an aggregate of items of information with a structure. A transformation, a changes like redefinition, modification in existing information or its functions. Implications, this is a concern with the exploration of informations in the form of expectancies, predictions, and the consequences. So six products is nothing but unit, classes, relations, systems, transformation, and implications. Unit is similar to Gestalt psychology of figure and ground. It's relatively a segregated item. Classes, so sets of informations. Relations, nothing but the connection between the items of the information based on variables. Systems, so the aggregate of items of information within a structure. So transformation is nothing but changes like redefinition and modifications. What is about implications? This is about the exploration of informations in the form of expectancies, predictions, and consequences. So, according to the Gulford, there can be only 180 different mental abilities as a result of these six processes operating on any of the five contents to produce any one of the six products. So, six process, five content, and six product. Just multiply the six process by five content and by the six product. It's equal to 180. So that's what he says. There can be only 180 different mental abilities. The Gulford would not agree to the idea of some fixed amount of intelligence. So instead, he claims that development of the intelligence skill, as in any other skill, depends on practice. Unlike others, Gulford is concerned with the social behavior of the individual in addition to the academic success. Therefore, he advised some test of social sensibility he take into account the interpersonal skill. He referred to the dynamic cluster of skills which can always be improved. So what we have seen, explanation of the different components of the intelligence, that is six operations: coordination, memory of recording, memory retention, convergent thinking, divergent thinking, and evaluations. So what are the five contents we can see? Visual, auditory, symbolic, semantic, and behavior. Six products: the unit, classes, relations, systems, transformation, and implications. So first we start with the units and which classes he belong to, what is the relations, and what are the systems behind it, how it is being transformation being happening, and how it is being implemented. So based on this, he is concluding that Gulford, he mentioned a number. 180 different mental abilities. How it came? There are six processes, and there are five content, and there are six products. So multiplying the six operation by five content by six product, we'll get 180. So Gulford would not agree to the idea of some fixed amount of intelligence. So he is claiming that the development of the intelligence skill, as in any other skill, depends on the practice. So, unlike others, Gulford is concerned with the social behavior of the individual in addition to the academic success. So, therefore, he devised some test of social sensitivity. He takes into the account the interpersonal skills as well. He refers to the dynamic cluster of skills which can always be improved. Let's move on to the educational implication of Gulford structure of intellect model.